Let's start with Unit 7, that is about sovereign, diplomatic, and consular immunity and privileges. So, under this unit, we will start with sovereign acts and non-sovereign acts, and diplomatic agents, consular, what are ambassadors, consulates, and what are the privileges and immunities given to them under international law. So majority of these privileges and immunities have been mentioned under the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations 1961. So I have included this in the first slide itself so that you will remember this while writing your answer. So let's start with diplomatic immunity and privileges of consular, ambassadors, foreign heads, and other agents which are protected under international law. So let's understand the concept of sovereign immunity under international law. So it is a principle to protect the state and its property from being sued or prosecuted in the courts of another state, like a foreign state. So this principle supports the idea of state sovereignty, non-intervention, and also equality, and it believes that no state should exercise jurisdiction over another state without their consent. So under this there are various heads, various individuals mentioned that are given this immunity. So let's first understand the type of sovereign immunity that we have. So there in total are two types. First is absolute and second is restrictive. So absolute, the word itself suggests that it will be absolutely given to the states. So under this, it does not matter whether the act which has been done by the state or individuals acting on its behalf is a sovereign act or non-sovereign act, and this was widely accepted in the mid 20th century. It is not very common nowadays restrictive immunity is more practiced. So अब sovereign और non sovereign acts क्या होता है? Sovereign acts वो acts होता है जो government exercise करती है to fulfill its obligation, duties or responsibilities. लेकिन non sovereign act can be done by a private individual for exercising those duties which are not for the governmental function. So next is restrictive immunity. So this is a modern approach which is accepted by majority of the nations in the world. So under this there will be immunity but in a restrictive manner, meaning that not the non-sovereign acts will be protected. It means that only those individuals or states or their property will be protected if the act was done as a government function. So it is not done in a commercial or private capacity but in a sovereign act to perform the governmental functions. So these two are types of immunity, that is absolute and restrictive. So this restrictive practice is very much popular nowadays. Immunity of state officials. So under international law, certain state officials get immunity. So what is immunity? Immunity is protection from any legal proceeding in the foreign land. So there are four types of officials that are getting this immunity. So first is heads of state, heads of government, foreign ministers, and diplomats. So under these categories, all the individuals will get immunity under international law. So this cover both official as well as private acts, but it will get over or it will cease to get over once they leave the office. So this is personal immunity. Next is the functional immunity. Under this, only the official acts will be considered under the immunity category, and this immunity will continue even after they leave the office. So this functional immunity does not cover private acts of such officials. So the difference between two is that first one covers both official and private acts of the state officials, but it ceases once they leave the office, and second one covers only official act and it will continue even after they leave the post or position. Now comes the immunity of state property. So state property including the embassies, consular premises, state owned ships enjoys the immunity from any type of search, seizure and execution in the territory of another state. तो इसका मीनिंग हो सकता है और इम्प्लीकेशन है कि कोई भी एम्बेसी, जैसे कि इंडिया की एम्बेसी अगर यूएस में है, यूके में है, तो यूएस एंड यूके गवर्नमेंट डू नॉट हैव एक्सेस और एक्सेस टू सर्च और सेजर इन दोज एम्बेसीज. या फिर अगर कोई स्टेट ओन शिप किसी और कंट्री के जुरिस्डिक्शन में है, वहाँ के पोर्ट में है, तब भी बिना कंसेंट के, बिना परमिशन के होस्ट स्टेट के वो शिप्स को भी सर्च नहीं किया जा सकता या उसको सीज करके नहीं रख सकते हैं या उसको एग्जीक्यूट नहीं कर सकते हैं. So this is immunity of state property under international law. So application. So state sovereign immunity is recognized under customary international law and it may be codified under various treaties. So countries can have different treaties dealing with immunity and privileges like Vienna Convention, and it is also given under customary international law. मतलब बहुत टाइम से ऐसा चला आ रहा है कि जो स्टेट के हेड्स होते हैं, जो ऑफिशियल्स होते हैं, उनको इम्यूनिटी मिलता है, उनकी प्रॉपर्टी को इम्यूनिटी मिलता है, स्टेट की प्रॉपर्टी को इम्यूनिटी मिलता है. सो दिस हैज टेकन अ प्लेस अंडर इंटरनेशनल लॉ अंडर द सॉवरेन इम्यूनिटी. Diplomatic agents. So let's understand about who are diplomatic agents, what are their functions and duties, so we can understand why they get immunity and privileges under international law. So diplomatic agents are the representative of a state whose task is to manage relationship between various states and international organizations. So let's start with the type of diplomatic agents. So the most highest ranking diplomats are the ambassadors and high commissioners. So they are typically recognized as the head of the state of the host country, and the high commissioners are similar to ambassadors but are exchanged between commonwealth countries. अब commonwealth countries कौन सी होती है? So it is an association of 53 independent states, mostly were under the British rule. So they were once a colony under the British rule. So they share common cultural, historical ties as well as common language as English. So we have ambassadors and high commissioners as the highest ranking diplomats. Next comes the envoys, ministers and charge d'affaires. So envoys and ministers comparatively ambassadors and high commissioners से low ranking diplomats होते हैं, but इनको भी recognize किया जाता है as the representative of the government and foreign ministers in the host country. Next is the charges d'affaires. So इनका काम होता है जब एम्बेसडर्स मिसिंग होते हैं या उनके एब्सेंस में मिशन को कैरी आउट करना या हेड करना on a temporary basis. So they act as the head of mission in the absence of ambassadors, usually on a temporary basis. Next is the attaches. So attaches are specialized experts attached to diplomatic missions such as military, cultural or commercial. So they are some individuals who have expertise in certain areas, mostly in military, cultural aspects or commercial aspects. So they are attached in some diplomatic missions. Next is the consuls. So consuls जो होते हैं वो agents होते हैं जो consulates में work करते हैं. अब consulate क्या होता है? एम्बेसी होता है, एंड एम्बेसी के जैसा ही एक और होता है, दैट इज कॉन्सुलेट. सो उनका मेजर काम होता है वीज़ा इशू करना, या अगर कोई सिटीजन किसी डिस्ट्रेस में है या कोई भी ट्रेड रिलेशंस प्रॉब्लम्स हो रही है तो वो सारी चीज़ों में डील करता है. तो एम्बेसी इज देयर बट कॉन्सुलर वर्क फॉर द वेलफेयर ऑफ द नेशन सिटीजन्स जो अब्रॉड में है. तो अगर आप बाहर जाते हो किसी कंट्री में और कोई प्रॉब्लम होती है वीज़ा रिलेटेड या फिर कोई आपको प्रॉब्लम हो रही है उस कंट्री में, देन यू कैन अप्रोच द कॉन्सुलेट बिकॉज कॉन्सुलेट इज देयर फॉर यू फॉर योर वेलफेयर इन अनदर नेशन. Now let's start with consul. Consuls differ from diplomats in that they are primarily concerned with the welfare of nations citizens abroad and facilitation of trade, friendship between people of two countries. So there are two types of consuls. So first one is consul general. तो ये mostly जो होते हैं वो larger cities या regions में होते हैं, तो उनको बोला जाता है head of the consul, that is consul generals. और जो सिर्फ consuls होते हैं वो generally smaller cities और regions में होते हैं, और इनका काम क्या होता है? बहुत सारे variety of functions है, like issuing visa में check करना कि कब expire हो रहा है या कैसे help कर सकते हैं वहाँ पे citizens को. Then aiding citizens in distress, अगर कोई डॉक्यूमेंट नोटराइज करना उसमें हेल्प करेंगे, ट्रेड रिलेशन इश्यूज को भी रिजॉल्व करने में हेल्प करेंगे. सो दीज आर सम ऑफ द डिप्लोमैटिक एजेंट्स. लेट्स मूव ऑन टू अनदर स्लाइड. Sovereign and non-sovereign acts. This we have already discussed in brief in the second slide. So let's understand this in detail. So what are sovereign acts? So sovereign acts are those acts that are exercised by the state with respect to its sovereign authority to discharge its governmental obligation. Example like passing laws, entering treaties, conducting foreign relations. So they have immunity under the jurisdiction of foreign courts. And there is also a separate doctrine supporting this, that is doctrine of state immunity. So under this doctrine, the sovereign acts are getting immunity in the foreign land. Next is non-sovereign act. So these are those acts by a state in commercial or private capacity. It does not mean that the government is exercising its governmental authority or power. They are exercising its private or commercial capacity. So example can be entering into commercial contracts or engaging in trades. So this can be exercised by private individuals or corporations. So these type of acts do not enjoy immunity in foreign courts, but in the absolute immunity they have immunity. But in the modern times, in the contemporary time, we recognize the restrictive immunity, and under restrictive immunity only for sovereign acts are recognized, and they get immunity from the proceeding in the foreign land. Diplomatic immunity. So under international law, there are certain privileges and immunities given to diplomatic agents and their families, so that the diplomatic agents can perform their diplomatic relationships duty without interference in the foreign land. So first is the personal immunity. Under this, all the diplomatic agents and their families are immune and have certain privileges, and they cannot be arrested, detained, or no legal proceeding can take place in the foreign land. Next is full immunity from criminal jurisdiction. This is under personal immunity. So diplomats are immune from arrest, detention, or any form of criminal prosecution by the host state. This immunity extends to family member as well. So this is the detailed version of personal immunity. Next is the example. Article 29 of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations emphasizes that the diplomat's person is inviolable and must not be subjected to any form of arrest or detention. So this particular Vienna Convention under Article 29 clearly says that no diplomatic agents or his family should be subjected for any arrest or detention in a foreign land if that agent is exercising its duty on behalf of the host country. After personal immunity, we have property immunity. So it means that the premises of or the property of the diplomatic mission are immune, and the receiving state cannot enter them without the permission of the host state. So this is also given under Article 22 of the Vienna Convention. So it says that the agents of the receiving state may not enter such premises of property of the diplomatic mission except with the consent of the head of the mission, like ambassadors, other high commissioners, then envoys, consuls. So with the help with the permission of them, they can enter those premises, but otherwise they cannot. Next is the immunity of diplomatic archives and documents. So whatever the archives of documents these agents have, they cannot be searched or seized by the country, because they enjoy this diplomatic immunity of archives and documents under Vienna Convention. Next is the immunity from taxation. So the diplomatic agents during their diplomatic missions enjoys exemption from the taxes and also from custom duties. And last one is the immunity from seizure. So it means that diplomatic property is immune from search and seizure, attachment, or execution in the foreign land, if even if there are certain points involved. So this is the property immunity, and in the previous slide we studied about the personal immunity, which is given to the diplomatic agents. Now comes the consular immunity. So consulars are the officials working in a consulate in the foreign land representing the state, the host state. So the consular immunity grants protection to consular officers to perform their official duties, including protection from arrest or detention. So they get this immunity of arrest and detention, but there are certain exceptions where they cannot be immune from arrest or detention, like if they have committed some grave offenses or some heinous crime, then they may be subjected to arrest or detention by a competent judicial authority. Now comes the consular officers. So they are appointed to represent their state's interest regarding trading, immigration, and citizen services in a foreign country. So this is their function, trade related, immigration related, and also to help these citizens in a foreign country. Next is the consular privileges and immunities. So they have the immunities so that they can perform their duties without any interference from the host country, and these privileges and immunities are codified under the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations of 1963. So there is a separate convention on consular relations, and under this we have the consular immunity concept. Now comes the personal immunity. So under this, unlike diplomats, consulars do not enjoy complete freedom or complete protection or immunity from the arrested detention. They can be arrested or detained only for grave offences that they have committed by the competent judicial authority. Next is the protection from hostile act. So it is the duty of the host country to respect the consuls of another state and to take necessary measures to prevent any attack on them. So this is given under Article 40 of the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations. So this is about the consular immunity under the international law. So these are some of the significant and relevant cases to sovereign immunity and certain privileges that diplomatic heads or consulars have. So the first one is Schooner Exchange versus McFadden. It is a very old case of 1812. So in this case, the United States Supreme Court established the very principle of sovereign immunity and immunity of foreign warships from the jurisdiction of domestic courts. So this was one of the earliest case talking about the principle of sovereign immunity and also about the jurisdictional claim of the warships in domestic courts. It emphasized the immunity of foreign states from the judicial processes. Now next is the case concerning US diplomatic and consular staff in Tehran. So this is a case of 1980. So in this case what happened, there was a crisis in Iran, and because of that there was a hostage situation and the US diplomatic and consular staff were held captive in Tehran. Tehran is in Iran. So this case emphasized the importance of the obligation of the host state, that is Iran, to respect diplomatic and consular immunity and the duty to protect diplomats under the international law. So this case said that it is the duty of Iran, being the host state, to protect the consular and diplomatic agents of another state. Next is the jurisdictional immunities of the state. This happened between Germany and Italy, and it is also known as Greece intervening, and this happened in 2008. So under this, the ICJ addressed the immunity of states from jurisdiction in foreign courts for sovereign acts, and it emphasized the principle that there should be absolute immunity for the acts of the state. So this particular case highlighted and emphasized the importance of the principle of absolute immunity. Now comes the case relating to India, that is Jadhav case, India versus Pakistan. So this recent case happened in 2019. So in this case, the issues relating to consular access and treatment of an Indian national accused of being a spy or espionage in Pakistan was being dealt. So ICJ ruled on Pakistan's obligation that it is the obligation of Pakistan under the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations to provide the immunities and procedural rights to the accused. So these four cases are very important from the point of view of sovereign immunity and privilege, and also it will help you in understanding these concepts more. That was all in your unit 7 relating to sovereign immunity and privileges. So we have discussed about sovereign acts, non-sovereign acts, about diplomatic agents, their immunity, their functions, privileges of consular rights, immunity, and also about 4 of the famous case losses. So from this unit, mainly short notes should come upon writing about diplomatic immunities, then who are diplomatic agents, consular immunities. So write about them, and if a long question comes from this, then it can come directly. So write the entire answer, and please include case losses in this, because it makes your answer more law centric and it will help you in fetching marks. So that was all. So all the best for your unit 7 and also all the best for your exams.